Yes. So together in this program, it's all about supporting that next chapter. So together we do clear that emotional, that physical clutter, redefine what actually feels aligned, and create these beautiful sanctuary spaces and rituals that really reinforce how you want to live and feel and show up. And truly, the reason that I do this work and speak about it the way that I do is because I've lived it through multiple chapters of my own life, and I've really seen firsthand just how much shifts when the environment that you are actually living in actually begins to reflect who you're becoming. So before we do talk about growth or your next chapter, I really want to take this moment to have you just notice the space that you're in right now. So not just what it looks like, but how it actually feels, because there is something that is influencing you before anything else, and that is your environment. It's the space that you wake up in, that you move through, and that you live inside every single day. And whether that space is actually supporting the woman that you're becoming. Because when your environment reflects who you're becoming next, your life really truly starts to follow. And so when I look back, I can actually see how this started quite early for me. So even as a little girl, I was already becoming her, creating and playing with fabrics and imagining a world that was so much bigger than the one around me. So my mom, who was my biggest inspiration, filled my life with creativity. She was always knitting and sewing and drawing. It was endless museum and gallery trips, jazz and blues festivals, and all of that left such a strong imprint that by 12 years old, I was already sketching and sewing my very first fashion collection, just using her fabric scraps. And I didn't know it then, but I was practicing something quite powerful. I was aligning my space with my imagination and who I was becoming. And then fast forward to my early 20s, just finished fashion design school in Vancouver, top of the class. But when I moved back home, I felt completely stuck. I was heartbroken from this failed relationship, living with roommates with bad energy and working jobs that I just knew did not reflect who I knew I was. And so I said, this is not going to be my next chapter. And I just made a decision. And I said, I'm done settling. I'm a fashion designer. And so I sought out, took a brand new job where I was surrounded by textiles and working with interior designers and clients. And I moved into my own tiny studio apartment, had these really high ceilings, an old clawfoot tub. So very humble, but magical. The thing is, the moment I stepped inside, I just felt the possibility and I completely transformed it into a sanctuary. I sponge painted the walls like an old European villa and filled the air with 40s jazz. I layered moody lighting and hung vintage French poster art. And night after night, I would draft my own patterns and cut and sew each piece on my old industrial Singer sewing machine, but constantly visualizing my designs on the runways and carried at boutiques across the country. So that tiny space became the birthplace of my very first fashion label. And so that was the first big dream that I ever made real. And once it was ready, I just boldly walked into the most high-end boutique in my hometown, and the owner bought every single piece. And so that moment taught me something I've never forgotten. When you align your environment with who you're becoming and you take inspired action, you accelerate everything. And so this is where things start to shift, because most people are trying to change their life without changing the environment that they're living inside every single day. So your environment isn't just where you live, it's shaping what you believe is possible. And so that vision turned into Toronto Fashion Week runway shows, interviewed by the fabulous Jeannie Becker. My collection was carried in boutiques all across the country, and I even owned a couture bridal boutique in Yorkville, Toronto. But this was not just about fashion. It was truly about understanding that your environment isn't just where you live, it's the incubator of who you're becoming. And so my next chapter took me into corporate interiors, and that was working on projects all across North America with top architecture firms and the experienced design teams in New York City, Boston, Miami, Chicago, and beyond. And I was able to see really firsthand how much environment shapes people on the grandest scale. But in the middle of that, COVID hit, and like so many people, I found myself stuck at home. I was dealing with anxiety and health issues like vertigo and migraines, and truly questioning everything. And so I went very deep into the inner work, the meditation, journaling, breath work, and really releasing limiting beliefs I'd held for decades and embodying this whole new identity. And so I immersed myself into personal development. I hired Tony Robbins coaches and invested in real estate, and I was just searching for my way out of corporate life. And so this is where I transformed a very dated 50s home and completely transformed it into this elevated space. And what I didn't expect was just how much that transformation shifted my perspective. Because I got to see firsthand just what happens when a space is intentionally designed at a higher level. And it really confirmed something I experienced years before. That is, your environment is either reinforcing your past or it's supporting who you're becoming. And really, once you see that, you can't unsee it. And so after 12 and a half years in corporate, burnt out and really unfulfilled at this point, I just left to really follow what felt like my true direction, which is to empower women and help them design these beautiful environments that reflect their rise. Because I truly believe your environment is always shaping how you feel, how you think, and how you show up, whether you realize it or not. And so your home is shaping you every single day through what you see, what you feel, how you move. It's the arrangement of your furniture, the colors around you, the way you move through your space. All of it is giving your nervous system these subtle instructions. And research in environmental psychology shows that our surroundings influence our stress levels, decision making, emotional regulation, and even motivation. So that means your home, it's either reinforcing clarity and expansion, or it's reinforcing that overwhelm and exhaustion and emotional stagnation. And many women don't realize they're still surrounded by evidence of these old versions of themselves. So that's old clutter, old emotional associations, old routines and energy. So the first step is truly all about awareness. And so I want to talk about clutter because clutter is never just physical, it is emotional and it's energetic. And every unfinished space is holding your attention. And even if you've learned to ignore it, your body is still registering it. So every pile of unopened mail or drawer that won't close, or every maybe corner that's filled with things that you say you'll deal with later, it's all speaking to you, even if you've tuned it out. So I like to call clutter these unfinished conversations. There's this heaviness to it, and your body is feeling that. And so every time you walk past that space, your nervous system reacts and it drains your clarity, your focus, your energy. However, that moment that you create order, even in just one small space, something shifts and your nervous system exhales because your brain stops tracking that chaos because it suddenly has space to think and to dream and to expand. So here's one mini action that you can take right away is just to choose one surface that you see every single day. That can be a nightstand, your desk, a kitchen counter, and just clear it completely. Wipe it down and reset it. And then add back just one or two intentional items that spark joy or remind you of your future self. So maybe that's a beautiful scented candle and a plant, or a photo of a trip you've been dreaming about going on, or even a book that you've been meaning to read, and now it's in that perfect place where you're grab it. So then just pause and stand there and notice what changes, because this isn't just design, this is your biology responding. And so you don't need to declutter your whole home at once. It's really just one aligned surface that creates momentum, and clarity becomes contagious. And so I like to just set that small time container, even just 15 minutes, put it in your calendar, same time each day, and set an intention before you start. Put on some music and actually celebrate when you're done. It's all about these micro actions that lead to macro results. So just notice what comes up for you, and really just take note of what's that one surface in your home that's silently draining you, and notice it, write it down, because again, change begins with awareness. And so now I want to talk about color, because color is one of the fastest ways to shift the energy in a room and in your body. So before you've consciously noticed the furniture or registered the layout, your nervous system has already responded to the color surrounding you. It happens in an instant. So our brains evolved to read color as a survival mechanism. Blue skies meant safety and calm. Fiery red tones meant alertness and danger. And so that wiring hasn't changed, which is why hospitals use these soft blues and greens. They literally lower stress hormones. And then why high-end restaurants lean into these deep reds and golds, because your body reads those as indulgence and warmth and abundance. So here's a question just worth sitting with. What is the color of your everyday environment telling your nervous system right now? So if you want focus and steadiness while you work, bring in those cool muted tones like slate blue or sage green. Even just a small touch with a notebook or a vase will create a subtle shift. And if you're calling in abundance and confidence, add in those warm neutrals with the golden undertones because these colors will ground the nervous system while still feeling expansive. And if you want passion, creativity, or boldness in your life, then don't shy away from these gorgeous saturated tones like deep emerald, rich terracotta, or blush pink. These aren't just pretty, they're cues your subconscious responds to every single day. So you don't have to rely on a vision board to shift how you feel in your space. Color does that automatically every single time that you walk into a room. And then over time, those small signals start to change how you show up without you having to force anything. And that's really the real power of it. It's not just how a space looks, it's how it's supporting you every single day. That's truly the identity work. And so one simple action you can take to start is just to pick one small thing in your space that maybe feels a bit drab or uninspiring and change the color of it intentionally. So just a single pillow, a candle, fresh flowers. Flowers are so powerful because in addition to that beautiful burst of color, it's living energy. So then just notice how the room and you feel the next day after that upgrade. And then last I want to talk about is flow. So flow is how energy and you move through your home. It's this unseen rhythm that's either carrying you forward with ease or quietly weighs you down. So your nervous system is constantly scanning for ease versus resistance. And if you're bumping into corners or dodging piles or squeezing through these tight spaces, your body reads that as micro stress. But when your pathways are clear, your body softens and your breath deepens and your brain conserves energy because it doesn't have to problem solve how to move. And then over time, this compounds. So just take notice. Do your mornings begin with frustration? Are you tripping over shoes or dodging clutter? Or do they begin with momentum, just a clear supported path? So flow teaches your nervous system whether life feels blocked or effortless. And so just a couple practical examples could be, say, your bedroom. If that pathway from your bed to your closet is cluttered, you're starting your day with a subtle obstacle course. And that is just going to set you up for the entire day to continue that way. So clear the path and mornings will begin to feel lighter. In the kitchen, if your counters are cluttered, meal prep will just feel like a battle. But when the surfaces are clear, cooking then becomes a ritual and not resistance. And for so many of us who work from home these days, your workspace matters greatly. So if your desk is facing a wall, your nervous system feels blocked, literally. Your body is oriented toward this dead end all day long. So turn it around so you can see the room. And ideally, if you can, right by a window toward natural light. And if you can, looking into nature, you will feel that shift immediately. And that's truly when clarity opens and the ideas will begin to flow. And then all of a sudden, opportunities feel much more accessible. So your desk isn't just where you work, it's truly where you decide every single day whether expansion feels possible. So, one action you could do is just to pick one pathway that you use every single day. That can be your front door to a kitchen, your bed to bathroom, and just clear that path completely and walk it slowly and then go back and walk it again briskly and truly just notice how your body responds when the space supports your movement instead of blocking it. This flow is your future self made physical, and every single step that you take in your home, it's either friction or forward momentum. So when you clear the way, you're not just rearranging a room, you're programming your brain and body to move toward ease, possibility, and expansion. And when your space moves with you, reflects your vision, and supports your senses, it becomes your daily ally in growth. So truly, one space, one shift, just one small decision. Your home is already speaking to you every single day. And so the question is, what do you want to start saying? So you are already becoming her and just allow your space to catch up. So thank you so much. I would love to just give you a little bit more information on Style to Rise. It is my 9-week signature program. It's a guided transformation experience. And it isn't just about design. It's not just about mindset work. It truly is a step-by-step process that helps women align their environment with who they're becoming so that your space starts reinforcing your next chapter instead of reflecting your past. And we begin by getting crystal clear on where you are now, what feels misaligned, and who you're becoming. And so from there, we work through releasing what no longer fits physically, mentally, emotionally. Because again, clutter isn't just stuff, it's often these outdated identities, it's unfinished decisions, and it's environments that no longer support the life that you want. And then from there, we intentionally redesign your space. We create sanctuary spaces, sensory shifts, and daily rituals throughout your home that will help you feel grounded and supported and aligned every day. So instead of just visualizing your next level, you actually start to live it. And so throughout the experience, you are supported through weekly coaching. There's guided implementation with downloadable self-reflection workbooks and alignment guides. There is personalized support and, of course, accountability, which will keep that momentum moving. And I've just opened a private circle community as well for connection and additional support between sessions, because really lasting transformation happens through consistency, it's through embodiment and integration. And again, this work goes far beyond aesthetics. We do spend a significant amount of time on emotional and physical clearing and releasing what no longer reflects the woman that you're becoming before intentionally designing what comes next. And so if any of this resonated with you, I would love to invite you to start a complimentary space audit session with me. It is just a private conversation where we look at your environment through this lens and truly identify what may be supporting you or quietly holding you back. And so if it does feel aligned, then we can explore whether Style to Rise would be the next step for you. But that was my time for today. So thank you so much, and appreciate you having me.